speak to the quality of Barksdale people.
He's gonna have to come back at you. You know it ain't gonna stop at this.
I don't want it to stop.
As we get older and we have an opportunity to philosophize about life, if you will, one of the things I've come to understand is that life is essentially about managing problems. As soon as you finish a problem, there's going to be a new problem. And because of this, I've understood that life is essentially putting problems into one of two buckets. And I don't think that there's anybody that can explain the first bucket better than Gary Coleman, the childhood star who was famous for saying this.
Would you cool it, Arnold? You know Homer ain't missing. What you talking about?
When you let Abraham loose for a swim.
What you talking about, Mr. D? What you talking about, Willis? What you talking about, Willis? What you talking about?
When we gathered around the television every week to watch Different Strokes and wait for Gary Coleman to say, what you talking about? We all thought that he had the perfect life as a kid. During his time on Different Strokes, Coleman was reportedly making $100,000 an episode. He was nominated for 5 Young Artist Awards. He won 4 People's Choice Awards. He was famous. He was rich. And we all thought we wanted to have the life that he was living. But in his private life, in 1989, he sued his adoptive parents. And of course, if you're in a situation where you're suing your parents or your adoptive parents, you cannot be in a good space emotionally because you don't have a support system. He won the lawsuit, but he would work part-time in railroad hobby stores in California, Arizona, and Colorado in order to support himself. And his ending, I'll let you look that up for yourself because it's not very pretty, but his ending and his private life was far from perfect. And in this situation, I would call these bad problems. In the bucket of bad problems, I would first of all put things like being a child star who get to go on television and do something relatively simple like say a catchphrase or just be goofy, if you will, and make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Also in that bucket, I would put winning the lottery. The stats for people who win the lottery are not good at all. In fact, 70% of lottery winners go bankrupt. The lottery does change people, but sometimes for the worse. According to the National Endowment for Financial Education, 70% of lottery winners go bankrupt within a few years. Imagine what's worse than being poor your whole life? Being poor, then being insanely rich, and then being poor again. Bad problems.
My bark's still weak today. And he ain't working with the ammunition I got.
I mentioned this earlier. Life is about problem management, even for rich people. This article from the Harvard Business Review from 2014, keep your kids out of the entitlement trap. It's not paranoia, the fear is grounded in reality. In business families, it's quite common for the next generation to grow up in a much wealthier environment than the current generation. A study of over 3,000 families found that when wealth is passed from one generation to the next, a whopping 70% of it is squandered. That 70% number is familiar, isn't it? This is the concern of most parents, but among the very wealthy, the anxiety can sometimes be paralyzing. Will their children and grandchildren end up lazy good-for-nothings who are not contributing to society? They ask a couple of questions about what kind of traits do they have, like can they hold down jobs? Can they build careers? Are they allowed to suffer? And suffering brings us back to the good problem, bad problem buckets, because I think in a way, suffering is a good problem. Well, we'll get back to that. Life is like the stock market, it's ups and downs and there's risk involved. Don't set your kids up to fail, but don't shelter them from fate's hard knocks. And the most important one, I believe, is are they grateful? Recent studies show that there is an inverse relation between materialism and gratitude. We're going to go through problems in life. It is the way that we view the problems that are going to make the difference. What about those good problems?
But what you gonna do when you sitting at the head of the table? Once you there, you got to hold it down.
Sound like one of them good problems.
Some people will hear the phrase good problem and see that as an oxymoron. They would think there's no circumstance under which a problem can be good. But I would say that a good problem is one where you start in a certain place, and because you go through the difficulties of the problem, you end up in a place better than you were at the start of the problem, making you a more formidable opponent, I guess. So a day like today, I spent a good 35, 40 minutes going back and forth calling and sending documents to the Kinki Koseikyoku about things I'm importing for sales online, right? Even though it's difficult, and of course the duration of the conversation is all in Japanese because there's no other way to talk to them, it's sharpening my Japanese skill. I'm acquiring the kind of not just forms and knowledge, but the terminologies that I need so that when I continue to grow my online presence, I'm ready to do so. Or even when I'm filling out the forms and I have to find the right NACCS codes, and I have to go through all the documentation and the particular codes in different Excel sheets, it seems like a lot of work and it's a lot of difficulty, and it is a big problem. But on the other side of the problem, I'm going to be able to function better as a businessman. These are what I call good problems, the problems that you cannot avoid.
We're gonna do this, right, Chris? We're gonna do this, son.
Like yesterday, dog.
You have to dive head first into these problems because these are the ones that are going to make you the person that you need to be to go where you're trying to go.
I do not believe that any of us have dreams that were not given to us for the purpose of accomplishing those particular dreams.
I don't have the time to listen to Les Brown on a daily basis, but every so often when I have a chance, I'll go back and listen to some of the things that just get me going, because he does two things for me. One is he reminds me that life is not supposed to be easy and that going through difficulty is a normal part of life. But the second thing is he has some really wise one-liners.
The people that are living their dreams are the people that know that if it's going to happen, it's up to them. And they're resolving within themselves, it's not over until I win.
Too many of us are not living our dreams because we're living our fears. Someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. Most people fail in life not because they aim too high and miss, but they aim too low and hit. You could say that about dating. But this is my favorite one, and it's one that I keep with me because it helps me deal with the times where I go to bed unsatisfied, but I understand that I just went through some of the head knocking that it takes to become the person I want to be. Do what is easy and your life will be hard. Do what is hard and your life will be easy.
Prison and graveyards full of boys who wore the crown.
Point is, they wore it. It's my turn to wear it now.
Almost all religions, holy books like the Bible and the Quran, even wise teachings teach us the detrimental effects of envy. I personally think that envy is such a detrimental thing to us because when we're envious, we only want the good part of what we see from the exterior. We don't want to inherit the problems that come along with it. So when you see a child star like Gary Coleman on Different Strokes making $100,000 a week by just saying, "What you talking about, Willis?" we're thinking, wow, he has the perfect life. Or what about if we see people win the mega jackpot ball, whatever it's called, and we're thinking, wow, that person is going to live the good life. In effect, this person is just getting rid of one set of problems and inheriting a new set of problems. And the opposite of that would be Marlowe. I mean, he was a sociopath, but he earned his dealing empire by working his way up. And when it was his time to take the reins, he had done the work through the good problems, if you will, that got him to where he was ready to take the reins. That's why I say that we should, instead of looking at problems as good or bad, we should see that the bad problems are ones that cannot necessarily be avoided, but the good problems we should embrace and take them on headlong, because we're going to get better at controlling emotion, being more disciplined, learning a language, being able to acquire skills that are going to help us succeed. In fact, the good problems are the ones that make us the people we want to be. The good problems, those are the ones you want. Grab them like you would a bull by the horns. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. I'll catch you next video. Take care, guys.